I don't even know.
It's probably like,
I don't think there is one.
It's probably like a Tristana at this point, right?
Yeah, probably just like go full circle. It's Thresh.
And Urgot's first pick.
Yeah, this is the world that we live in, ladies and gentlemen. World Elite going to take away the Urgot. Actually, a very high priority pick at the moment. We saw Woosh actually picking that one up over and over again and doing quite well, especially in their second game with that champion. EDG now thinking about their follow-up picks here, and you might want to take this LeBlanc into the mid lane. GA had a decent performance, especially in the laning phase, but sort of was unable to make anything happen in the team fights.
So, I mean, Yu's more noted as maybe a Zed player when we're talking about more aggressive champions. Kind of had to default to Ziggs because that was what suited EDG's playstyle the most.
Yep.
Still played a bit of Nidalee and the likes of Zed. I mean, LeBlanc, not necessarily one of his trademark champions, but with Lissandra banned away, maybe this is a situation where he doesn't have any comfortable champions to pick into it, so why not just take it away?
Yeah, it's interesting. GA thinking about possibly the Cho'Gath for the mid lane, or Spirit maybe thinking about it for the top lane. Not entirely sure. Spirit, sorry, for the jungle. Or Aluka could play it. It is a very tanky champion. I'm just not going to try and say where a champion is going. Cho'Gath is being considered for World Elite.
I mean, Ahri would be opting into a skill matchup, perhaps most notably shown with IG against OMG, when, of course, Rookie and Cool went at it in this exact battle. Ahri opting into this matchup. We haven't seen any Ahri tonight, despite the fact that we have multiple undefeated Ahri players with more than 3 games played. Ahri finally comes to the LPL. It took 8 games tonight, but we see it on patch 5.6.
Oh my goodness, is it going to happen?
He likes to hover, Varus, so just calm down for now.
I even just like the hover. That's making me happy. Irrespective. Rek'Sai, though, was left open. Of course, when you have all of these very weird and wonderful bans coming through, the likes of Sejuani, Vladimir, and of course Nautilus, then the Rek'Sai tends to fall through the cracks. Spirit not wanting to opt into that one, wants to go for the more aggressive early skirmishing jungler in the Lee Sin. But it is going to be deft on the Kalista one more time, and Rek'Sai here for clear love.
I mean, to me, what I think Deft is doing is showing that he can play this champion that he's avoided for the whole season, just to, again, play mind games against the enemy. EDG, they're not playing for much more apart from practice, pride, and just getting themselves in the best frame possible for finals. Is that showing their best strategies? Probably not, but just continuing to play the Kalista whenever it's available. It hasn't been banned against EDG at all this season, because again, he hasn't shown it as a champion. OMG get target bans for the Kalista.
Yeah.
In this situation, it's just really good strategically to keep showing it, because of course Def can play Kalista, he can play any champion in the AD carry role. Mako, he's showing the Bard. We've been surprised once already today.
No.
Audible gasp and sadness in the studio. Alistar be pretty cool, though.
Yeah, Alistar would definitely be cool. That Fate's Call into the Headbutt Pulverize is a whole lot of extra CC. Maybe not the likes of Nautilus, who also has CC on his passive, but Alistar definitely no slouch when it comes to that, and we'll see whether Mako can be his aggressive self now on the cow. I
mean, there's been 24 games a week. We're now into week 10. That's going to be 240 games of League of Legends at the end of this week, and I can't tell you if there's been an Alistar this season.
No, I don't actually think that there has been in the LPL thus far.
And with such a big sample size, it's a surprise just because, look...
This season, of course. Yeah.
This season of the LPL, absolutely. Of course, there was top lane Alistar and all sorts of other shenanigans in previous years. But Alistar, he's always been pretty good. It's just that other champions maybe are more reliable than him. Of course, there's always the downside of a potential flash WQ combo might not come off. The Headbutt Pulverize is a risky maneuver. He's a melee champion, and melee support laners aren't always that popular, but we've seen plenty of Leona and other champions. It's taken a long time. I can't say for sure there's been no Alistar, but I certainly can't remember any.
No, I can't, and not any sort of standout performances here either, as we are going through the lineups here. GA against you now in a sort of opposite matchup, but Ahri going into the LeBlanc here, and this is the exciting one. It is going to be Urgot into the Kalista, and you have to think that switcheroo going to be pretty handy.
Absolutely, and in general situations, it's going to be a very tough laning matchup for Deft. I have to think that with 2 ranged champions against Kalista and a melee support, EDG are going to be desperate to get a lane swap, and they'll be on World Elite to try and stop them in the early game.
Yeah, and I of course mean hyperkinetic position reverser. Switcheroo is, of course, Jinx's Q, but it's a little bit easier to say.
Semantics, Atlas. I think our viewers knew what you meant.
Look, maybe because it was very confusing. It's still an ability. It's just not one of his abilities. But, ladies and gentlemen, let's get on to the Rift and see how it goes. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, hoping to get onto the Rift very, very shortly. Just checking out the fans and seeing whether they're as excited to see you there in the mid lane instead of Pawn. And here we are, the defensive fan from both sides.
A lot of popularity for World Elite. Of course, a wonderful performance at IEM a few weeks ago. Struggled at the Demacia Cup. We haven't mentioned that EDG sweeping the Demacia Cup 12-0 through the round of 16 onwards. 3-0 in every best of 5. World Elite, they did credibly. They made it to the semi-finals, lost in the semi-finals, and then crucially lost the third place matchup, unfortunately, to an LSPL team in QG. So they're not going to be feeling too much momentum coming into this game. And they're against stiff opposition in EDG, even without Pawn available. Yeah,
well, this is the thing, and you still going to be able to fit into that roster very, very effectively. We saw that in the last matchup, and his Lissandra, it already has a ban to it as well. So we'll see how this LeBlanc does work out for the EDG lineup in the hands of you instead of Pawn.
Absolutely, and LeBlanc is definitely something different than we expect from you. And again, we've seen we've seen players try to incorporate LeBlanc into their lineups and not necessarily do it that impressively. Dade, for example, is one player who can play LeBlanc, has had some good performances on LeBlanc, but doesn't feel like a Dade champion. It'll be interesting to see how you performs on LeBlanc. I'm sure you've seen it from him in competitive before, but it's just something new, at least in this meta. And Aluka got Sion. We didn't even mention that.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. This is Aluka's comfort of comfort champions here. He is going to take away the Wolves. It is always good to mix up the camp that you are going to die to.
And in general, though, the first time they came back from IM, rapturous cheers came when Sion was considered by Aluka. I think that's another reason we saw the camera. They love seeing Sion played by Aluka because he's so good at this champion. The champion, as we've noted multiple times, you, myself, Pastry Time, Spawn, Sion's really funny.
Sion is hilarious, but in the hands of Aluka, it is his perfect champion because, of course, gets to that point where he's such an immovable tank. And that's precisely how Aluka plays, in your face, but never really worries about going into trades or trying to defeat his opponents. He just wants to be frustrating.
I mean, frustration is going to be the story in bottom lane as well. Remember, this is Kalista and a melee support against Urgot Thresh. About as frustrating a lane matchup as you can have. There's not enough range in the world, barring maybe a Caitlyn, to deal with what Urgot does in lane. So it's going to definitely be struggle street for Deft for one of the few times this season they couldn't get the lane swap they were looking for.
Yeah, and we'll see whether he's going to be okay in this lane. Of course, Deft has sort of turned lanes that probably shouldn't have been winnable for himself, but we'll see how this one goes because, of course, Mystic and UJ have shown to be fantastic players. Actually, Gia going to land the charm in the mid lane, actually taking a whole lot of damage and using a whole lot of his mana. The flash actually after the Sonic Wave to come through. There's the Deceive as the red buff is going to tick down, and Spirit, right place at the right time. GA with no follow-up, though, because no mana.
And a skill matchup has to use his flash crucially very, very early. One of the other issues, oh my goodness, here we go.
Yeah, there's the headbutt Pulverize and Mystic. Oh, straight on top of the Dark Passage, but another knock-up to come through as the exhaust down on a Mystic. Uses the heal there as well, gets slowed down by the Rend. But the Death Sentence, that is max range. UJ playing out of his mind at the moment as Mystic trying to land up those Qs, but doesn't quite get there.
That was almost insane. I was actually going to refer to the fact that World Elite were able to push in a Kalista as Urgot. The thing about Urgot's lane that a lot of people don't appreciate is that level 1, level 2 is actually very, very weak. He doesn't have any AoE wave pushing, just has the ability to shoot out those Acid Hunters, which have very low base damage at level 1. If you push in Urgot, it can be difficult for him to get lane control, but it turns out they engineered all of that for that creative gank with Clearlove in the bottom lane. Weren't able to pay it off, but this is where you want Urgot lane. You want him under turret wherever possible.
Yeah, and they have managed to do so. So theoretically, actually a successful gank to come through from Clearlove, despite blowing his flash for no kills. They do get every summoner out of Mystic, though, and that is very important.
Exactly. He'll get all the thanks from his AD carry. Despite not picking up the kills, relieving pressure against an Urgot for an AD carry is a godsend.
And Aluka now in the top lane continues to farm up very fast on Aluka's side. That might be why it's extra funny, because he sort of moves a little bit quicker. Spirit, though, waiting around, not actually taking down that tunnel. Does decide to in the end. I thought it might have been strategic just to make sure that his presence wasn't pinged out by that tunnel disappearing. But he is just going to head into that lane. Another Death Sentence going to land here as well as Def trying to use that Martial Poise to get out.
A triple pulverize from Mako, though. Definitely understands his ranges as Alistar. That's one of the most deceptive things about Alistar. He's all about ranges, whether it's the headbutt range, the AoE range of the pulverize. A lot of little skills in this champion. It'll be interesting to see which spell he maxes. Some people, like Mad Life back in the day, used to max the headbutt just for lane control, just for disengage. Some people max the pulverize first just to match the cooldown with the headbutt, so you always have headbutt pulverize available at the same time. Alistar has a lot of little mechanics to him. We see him play to the top level. He can be one of the most exciting champions to track, so it's lovely to see him back in the LPL.
Yeah, and we'll see how Mako manages to play him as this game progresses, but so far has looked very impressive. That being said, UJ's Thresh always has been, you have to admit, very, very strong, but those Death Sentence that he's hit so far this game have looked fantastic.
And UJ's definitely leveled up with his new lane partner, despite the fact that we now have a Korean and a Chinese player together in the bot lane after what was previously an all-Chinese lineup. The communications looked better. In general, the laning phase looked a lot stronger. UJ had been a bit of a question mark. And speaking of question marks,
yeah, there's the Sonic Wave. Max range landing on Akoro. Immediately blows the flash. Clearlove is here and is going to tunnel in to protect his top lane. Akoro completely out of mana. And what perfect positioning by Clearlove.
The thing about Clearlove in this matchup, remember we very recently saw Spirit and Loveling going at it, and at least in the first game, Loveling was boxing with Shadows. It was always Nidalee reacting first, and Jarvan just kind of trying to track him to lane, but being there after a gank had already taken place. The difference between Loveling and Clearlove is that Clearlove's rotations have been excellent, and he's always been on point to stop the early aggressive rotations coming through from Spirit.
Yeah, Mystic actually going to use his shield here on the bottom side. Deft dancing back here as well, and World Elite still with this lane, pushing now on the bottom side. Mystic with a CS advantage as well. And Mystic looking very at home on this Urgot. You can understand why it was banned out in the first game, as there's another Acid Hunter to come down. Oh my goodness, just so much poke to come through from Mystic.
And you have to feel like the Alistar is one of the answers they have towards Urgot, just being able to headbutt away the Urgot when he tries to get into swap range, headbutt away potentially the Sion or Ahri. Of course, having a targeted disengage ability could be so useful to keep people away from Def, ensure that sustained damage is really effective in a team fight.
Yeah, Death Sentence is going to go wide as World Elite going to shove this wave into the turret as well. Now looking to try and get some poke down. You can see Def not having a great time in this Kalista in this lane, and Mystic is just on this Urgot, you're just so much more tanky than your lane opponent early on.
And Deft has also had another problem. He's kind of been priced into buying a pickaxe just for lane presence, even though pickaxe, if you look at his previous build, and in general, Kalista builds, you don't see too much Infinity Edge Kalista apart from the one game we saw earlier in the season. You want the Bloodthirster just to do consistent damage to lifesteal through a fight. But in this situation, it might be priced into an Infinity Edge and not really clear how much effect that will have on team fights for EDG.
It's going to be difficult.
Could just leave it in the
yeah, go for the last whisper.
Delay the Bloodthirster and the Hurricane a little bit further, but at this point at least, only a pickaxe to show for laning phase and not naturally building into an early game Kalista build.
Yeah, and the important thing is here as well is that World Elite have weathered the early storm of EDG. They're very even on gold, actually have a slight gold advantage. And World Elite just more than happy to sit back and let this game play out. And we'll see how things work out towards the middle stages and whether it's going to be the assassination potential of an Ahri in the mid game or whether it's going to be the LeBlanc.
I feel like the pick face really worked in World Elite's favor just because, again, Urgot's perhaps one of the best champions you can take against Def just because, again, it deals so well with a strong AD carry. That's kind of been the major boon for EDG this season has been just how strong Deft has been in lane, in teamfighting, in the late game. If you can't gank for Deft, which is what Clearlove has done so often, is getting Deft to a start that, of course, he'll embrace with both hands and push forward. In this situation, because there's so much lane presence from the Urgot Thresh, and Kalista and Alistar have such a much later power spike, there's no real point to gank bot, and Def is just slowly losing this lane. It's not by a lot. He's actually up in CS and doing competitively, but he's not running away with the lane like he might on the likes of Corki in past weeks.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. We're used to seeing Def just totally dominate that lane, often getting these 2v2 kills in the bottom lane, but it's not happening at all this time. In fact, pressure is with Mystic and UJ in this lane. Jie heading back to this mid as well, was thinking about roaming up top as Charm not going to find the mark. Orbital Deception is there, though, so he's going to get a little bit of harassment. You can see you not too worried about that. Not going to find the chain. And dodges out of the way of the extra skill shots by heading back to that distortion point.
And Clearlove is matching pressure with pressure, actually going for the Warrior enchant rather than the Cinderhulk. We've already seen a Cinderhulk Rek'Sai tonight. I feel like Rek'Sai is flexible. She can build either of those items, still be relevant. Will we see a trade coming through? She just opens up space against you. But definitely a lot of damage coming out of this jungler with the Warrior enchant.
Yeah, and actually going for the Chilling Smite here as well. Spirit, on the other hand, is going to try and have a little bit more help in the old farm, as Charm's going to land here as well. The chains are available. Clearlove looking to try and get in there. Spirit Rush going to be used. And oh my goodness, the Prey Seeker almost setting it up for the Ignite kill, but not quite getting there. Jie is going to head back to base, but there's the Sonic Wave. The Resonating Strike's there as well, as Spirit doesn't quite decide to go for the kick as the Prey Seeker comes over the wall.
Yeah, the Tremor Sense did spot out Spirit, so it was able to juke the kick coming through. Yu's able to stay in lane, build up a bit more CS. In fact, Ahri's going to overstay a little bit in this scrud. I guess confident that Yu's is going to push out and back, so able to pick up a bit of CS and move towards that Athene's Unholy Grail.
Yeah, Deft actually managing to get this lane back in order here on the bottom side. Will have exactly the same farm as Mystic as this wave crashes into the turret as well. So Brutalizer completed by Mystic. Does have a pickaxe as well.
Towards the Mana Moon.
Yeah, getting very, very close towards it. Of course, I'm used to it being a longsword, to be
absolutely,
honest. A little bit old school.
And I can understand that. It's definitely been a recent... Oh my goodness, the Q, right?
Yeah, actually, the kick into the face of you as well. And Spirit just with the 1v1. No
max
worries.
range Q into a kick. Lovely mechanics coming through from Spirit. Pays off the Warrior enchant that, of course, Lee Sin is always going to be building. It's the most slot-efficient AD item by far for junglers. And Lee Sin with the Brutalizer, you know, the extra armor penetration, he loves that item.
Yeah, and that is going to be First Blood as well taken here for Spirit. And as far as getting extra pressure from your jungler is concerned, if that jungler's name is Spirit and you're on the enemy team, man, that is very, very scary. And
both junglers, both mid laners took their turns overstaying. LeBlanc pushed in the wave, then Ahri overstayed to get that one last load of creeps, and then you, in turn, overstayed again, got assassinated by Lee Sin. So someone was bound to get punished for staying in the lane so long. And speaking of punishment, make one round of EQs, and he's suddenly at 40% health.
Yeah, I mean, that's the corrosive charge, and then those Acid Hunters just coming so easily from Mystic, and now that he has that tier stacking up as well, it's not as detrimental to that mana bar. Decided not to go with the Flask, which is what we had seen previously, but of course the mana just going to keep stacking, and it's going to be easier and easier to keep pressure on this lane.
It's one of those situations where Urgot, because his 425 range, doesn't really proc the lifesteal, and in terms of auto-attacking, auto-attack's a bit less than other AD carries, definitely less about auto-attack damage, so it kind of makes sense to navigate away from the Doran Blade and go for either longsword start, boots for potions is an option, even a mana potion. You're very flexible in your openers. If you think it's going to be a tough punishing lane, then you might opt into the Flask 3 pulse. That's definitely the start in the mid lane, but in a lane matchup where you're so one-sided in terms of lane presence, especially in the early game, I do like the choice. Not even bother with all that regen.
Yeah, Spirit going to find his way to the mid lane, but doesn't find any joy onto you here. As Yuji and Mystic continue to push this one up, and lead is actually with Deft at this stage.
He's been CSing very, very well. That's kind of the downsides. If you don't get the harassment, if you don't get any kills in lane, 425 range, and then trying to farm with Acid Hunt is never ideal. Of course, minions will always block away. The minion line will break differently, and you won't always be able to get Acid Hunter last hit. So if it just turns into a farm lane, it definitely suits Deft.
Yeah, it was a really nice distortion from you there in the mid lane, dodging out of the way of the charm, of course, getting behind the Ahri, which is very important. That is a huge decimating smash onto Koro, but Aluka, we mentioned it before, and doesn't necessarily have kill pressure. He's just pretty frustrated.
But still something very notable, Atlas. We were looking at the skill max. Of course, for so long, the Roar of the Slayer max has come from these signs. This is actually a decimating smash max. And even further on top of that, he's maxing the shield second. So
oh my goodness.
The Roar of the Slayer only going to be used as a one-point utility tool.
Yeah, just trying to use it for the slow for setup CC, not going to be using it to farm out the waves, which is generally what you see.
Has a little bit of armor shred as well, so it does have quite a few utility options on that E. But yeah, I mean, Decimating Smash means basically instant wave clear, very high base damage on that ability, and then the shield for more tankiness.
Yeah, interesting. We'll see how Aluka does utilize that if we get into any mid-game team fights. Of course, most of the time that we see Scions in these team fights is generally towards the late game. Everything's going to be maxed, but of course, the mid-game skirmish, see whether it changes anything for Aluka here, and we know that he's a very practiced Scion player.
Absolutely. I'm going to defer to Aluka if I'm going to defer to anyone on Scion. There's the headbutt and the Pulverize.
Yeah, Pulverize coming into a multiple members here as well. Mako actually going to get kicked out of this fight. Fate's Call, though, gets him right back in there as Mystic gets exhausted. Spirit taking so much damage as the Unbreakable Will is out there. Oh, Charm actually not aimed onto Mako there as he gets swapped back into the fight. GA actually, oh my goodness, just launching himself into that one. The headbutt over the wall doesn't actually net anything as Spirit gonna go down. Yuji already dead as Mystic trying to clear this one up. The double kill now for Yu as he enters this fight. Deft so incredibly low. Oh my goodness, the Acid Hunter doesn't find it. The heals there. The auto attack from Mystic secures the kill. Yu might actually find it, and he does. But man, that was a difficult to kill Urgot.
Yeah, the Deft lived a very long time until it was DPS down by the LeBlanc. I believe that was the refresh of her cooldown on her ultimate.
Yeah.
Not that long, even at level 11. They get the exit kill. Deft bought the time, so credit to him. Does fall down all in all. I thought that would for sure be a team fight win coming through from World Elite. But it's EDG who even have a dragon to show for it as well. They just kited back and re-engaged so often, running around Yu's cooldowns and just playing that LeBlanc. You know, we questioned it to some degree and maybe didn't deny that he was a good LeBlanc, but certainly shown that he's just fine on that champion.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, and they waited for you to get there as well. That was the whole Unbreakable Will that Mako used just to buy time to get that LeBlanc into that fight. It was beautiful to see by EDG, and in the end managed to pick that one up, and Deft now sitting on 4 extra assists. He has died, and he has picked up that Infinity Edge.
And look, once you had the pickaxe, probably priced into it because you need an item power spike to compare to the much cheaper but significant spikes coming through from an Urgot, Mana Moon, and double cooldown reduction. There's the Death Sentence.
Yeah, Deft actually getting Death Sentence here as well, taking so much damage. The Fate's Call's there as well. He's got so much to deal with, though, as Mystic is going to pick up the kill. Clear Love is going to clean it up, though, as Yuji going to fall down. Deft going to try and get back into this one. Mystic is taking a long time to die, but in the end, it's a double kill for the Rek'Sai.
Critically, Deft doesn't get any kill involvements. Actually, no, still gets an assist, so must have had some autos running. They're continuing the dive.
Yeah, that's the knock-up onto Spirit here as well. You looking for a chance to get in there as there's a twisted advance. Yu picks up the kill. Mako doesn't even die to Jie, who's now in a whole lot of trouble. As Koro, he's happy to tank this one up. Mako's there as well. Doesn't quite have the Pulverize, but he's got a heck of a lot of damage.
Excellent turret juggling coming through from EDG. Another 4 kills they add to pad their scorelines. Aluka critically did not have teleport available for that engage, and using that teleport downtime from the Scion expertly are EDG, playing around their cooldowns. Deft's not happy, 0, 2, and 6, but everyone else doing just fine on the side of EDG.
Yeah, and Clear Love now 3, 0, and 5, 100% kill participation. You have to think, EDG, you look at this team, and as soon as someone isn't having the game that they want, somebody else picks up the pieces, and at this point, it's you and it's Clear Love.
What a re-entrance to the competitive scene for you. You can't even really remember Pawn. He's so wonderful, especially on this LeBlanc, but shrugging off any comparisons, there's no kind of downside to this you being involved in this game because he's been so on point on Lissandra and now LeBlanc.
Yeah, and it has been rotating around this map so beautifully as well, has always been where his team needs him to be, and this is a Chinese mid laner as well, so there is no communicational issue between any of these guys apart from Deft.
And look, their rotations have been on point, but they were before. It's a credit to you that we can't really separate EDG with Pawn and EDG without Pawn.
Yeah, well, precisely. But we shall see how this one then ends up shaking out. And, of course, you now able to get a CS advantage as well in that mid lane, considerably winning that one. Athene's on Holy Grail has been completed by this Ahri in response. But there's Aluka, the unstoppable onslaught, but uses it just to get back to his lane.
Of course, has quite a bit of cooldown reduction build up between the Kindle Gem and the Glacial Shroud. Not a long cooldown, actually scales down to 60 seconds at level 16. So using it as a gap closer, not a problem.
Yeah, you may as well just use it for a little bit of extra speed here as well, and Aluka does want to get into a side lane as quickly as possible.
Speaking of rotating the side lanes, Clear Love's looking to go in aggressively. This might be a bit too far, though. Hyperkinetic Precision Reverser is available.
Yeah, Koro's there as well. Wants to swap the turret aggro here as the Twisted Advance still available. He gets swapped on. There's the Twisted Advance. Clear Love picks up another kill, but Decimating Smash stops him and just explodes onto the Rek'Sai. Picks up the shutdown as well. Koro now in a whole host of trouble as, my goodness, there is a Spirit there for a second, and there's the Fate's Call. UJ actually surviving this one as well, as there's the Deceive to be popped out. Decimating smash onto Deft, though, the max range death sentence. UJ gets back in, and he might even survive this one as well, as Mako really wants to punish him. There's the charm, though, and the explosion again from Aluka picks up another kill. That was a 1 for 4.
Yeah, at least a 4 for 1. Might have been 4 for 2. Yes, the Urgot did die to start it all off.
True.
But still a massive win for World Elite. This game is certainly not out. And in any straightforward form, only 700 gold is the lead for EDG, despite what has felt like a one early game for EDG.
Yeah, and that was as soon as Aluka got into that fight as well. This Scion really managing to clean up and stop any of the exits that were attempted by EDG. And you have to think it might have been just an overly ambitious dive there on the Mystic.
I don't think you have to guess that. That was definitely biting off more than they could do. You don't need to be turret diving the Urgot necessarily at this point. Deft wasn't even in lane at that point. They was going for a sheer turret dive. The two tanky members, Maokai and Rek'Sai, felt like an overextension when they were already winning this game. And if World Elite start to bring it back, if World Elite get the next Dragon, if World Elite start to get map pressure back, remember, EDG have been rotating so aggressive because they've had basically solo control of the enemy jungle. They could always take the shortest path when they rotate to bottom. Things will start to change as gold starts to be built up on multiple threats on the side of World Elite.
Yeah, but World Elite, to their credit, they're ahead in gold at this stage of the game. They have the two outer turrets in the top and bottom lanes, and we haven't spoken about this too much, but EDG, they've been sort of ignoring turrets this game.
They haven't been focusing turrets. Also, Deft's been forced and shoehorned into this build, which really doesn't suit a Kalista, because even though she has martial poise from abilities, she needs the lifesteal. She does a lot of damage in 550 or less range. Just a bit like Vayne in that regard. So you need lifesteal. That's why Vayne loves to play the Ruin King. Can also itemize Bloodthirst. So you want lifesteal in this build, but he's mainlining for damage. He does a lot of it, but doesn't have the most peel, even with an Alistar, to survive through a fight. Yeah,
World Elite actually cutting EDG off in transition here as well. Clearlove looking to come round. The charm doesn't quite land on enemies. He tunnels his way in. They're ignoring the blue buff here as Jie getting a lot of damage down in the back line. But the swap onto Deft. He does pick up his Alistar here as well, but Deft just dies on it. There's a beautiful knock-up, though. We'll see whether EDG have enough damage here on the back line. Jie is going to get twisted advanced on by Koro. He's going to get deleted. You now on the run away from Mystic. The last Acid Hunter locks down the kill. And World Elite now looking to clean this fight up. Koro completely out of mana, wants to escape. Mako, oh dear, the cow getting corralled here, as Koro now looking to try and survive, but it's not going to happen. And World Elite with a successful janitorial display in the end there.
4 for 2 into 4 for 1 trades coming through from World Elite. Another one team fight. They keep fighting. They keep picking off team fights against an Urgot with a Deft that's just not combat ready. Hasn't gone for an early game build. Has honestly gone for a super late game build with the Phantom Dancer or Static Shift. Yep, it will be Phantom Dancer, Infinity Edge, but without the lifesteal against the threat of an Urgot, just can't deal with the swaps coming through. Had to use the flash right at the start of that fight. That will be the first Dragon coming through from World Elite. And after what was an overly aggressive turret dive, things are completely turning around. Just watch this fight. This is EDG re-engaging. They do not want to give away their blue buff. And the thing about Deft is he goes to use the terrain for his advantage, but this is Urgot. He's just going to swap you into the fight. And that's when things go real bad for EDG. He flashes back, but flashes straight into a Scion who's already in the middle of a team fight. Dies instantly, and you have no AD carry versus an Urgot, who acts as the AD carry in this fight. Does so much consistent damage. Basically, single-handedly corrals you out of the fight, even hits the max range Acid Hunter to finish the fight. The rest of this is all going to be cleanup, but they get the 2 more kills, they get the Dragon, and World Elite, they're winning this game.
They are certainly winning this game, and it doesn't really look like EDG have the answers here as well. Another max range Sonic Wave, and Spirit is looking very, very strong on this Lee Sin. 3-3 and 6 now, has his Banshee's Veil completed, and World Elite, they're not finished. Just Spirit looking to come around and contest this red buff. Sonic Wave landing onto Mako here as well as Deft. He's hanging around. The Fate's Call onto Spirit here, but he's the only one that gets knocked up. Aluka being a massive force in this front line, but just trying to be a nuisance, doesn't have a whole lot of damage. Koro is going to get caught out and possibly going to go down. So many low health bars on World Elite's side, but Koro going to be the first one to be taken down. Mako trying to keep himself alive with that triumphant roar, but World Elite are going to win the skirmish in the end.
And you can see the difference between the frontline tanks. Deft got about 8 to 10 auto attacks with Infinity Edge and Phantom Dancer onto the side. Even weaved in an auto attack onto the red buff to pick it up and was just tickling Aluka, who would have comfortably lived. He even had his shield back off cooldown, didn't need to use it. Deft is not teamfight ready to deal with the frontline coming through, and honestly, unless they use everything onto this Scion, Deft cannot get damage onto the back line.
He can't, and he also, this damage is sticking onto him as well. Doesn't have the Bloodthirst. It doesn't have the extra lifesteal to survive through any of these fights.
He can't build a Vamp Scepter this way. He needs Last Whisper so much to be able to start actually DPSing down Scion. You need those 3 items to do any damage to Scion, but if he ever gets caught, if the swap comes through when his flash isn't available, he will die instantly, and all that damage will be for naught. So it's a real unfortunate situation for Deft. All you have to think coming off the pickaxe purchase.
Yeah, and it seems to have pigeonholed him very badly. And what is the thinking when it comes to picking up a pickaxe instead of potentially that Vampiric Scepter, which is similar item cost? It's
all about lane control, Atlas. The extra 15 AD between a pickaxe and a longsword, or a Vamp Scepter in this case, is significant. It helps your last hitting, it helps your trading. You can pick up a kill and snowball your next item. A lot of AD carries, they just pick up the most cost-effective, biggest purchase they can with their gold. It's kind of the secret behind. People always ask, is it Phantom Dancer or Static Shiv? To be honest, if you have 800 gold at the right spot, you're kind of priced into buying an Avarice Blade and working towards the Static Shiv over a Phantom Dancer, despite the relative differences between those items. When you've got enough gold and you're against an Urgot, you need as much power early as possible, and it just would have been an item timing situation that's snowballed into just an unfortunate situation for Deft.
Yeah, it sort of hasn't really worked out here for EDG, but they are of course only 2,000 gold behind, even on Dragons now as well. But you can see, look at all of the pink wards in the inventories of World Elite. They are ready to set up some vision here, potentially around that Baron. And was that a missed headbutt pulverize there onto Jie? Because that could have meant a dead Ahri.
Couldn't actually tell on that situation. Might have been. At the moment, we have a really weird situation where LeBlanc is split pushing against Scion. You don't want to do that, so has to back away. World Elite making a very aggressive rotation to the bottom line. The defensive wards leave a lot to be desired from EDG. They're minimal at this point. They're going to get a lot of turret damage in before they can counter-rotate. Yeah, Koro looking to try and get something happening. Dark Passage going to save Spirit there as well as the Death Sentence comes through onto Clearlove, but he's pretty tanky now as well as Koro's tanking up a bunch of the damage. Deft now in the backside, wants to try and get involved, but Spirit's there. He's really tanky. You trying to come through with some damage here as well, but Jie getting a whole lot of work done. Spirit going to take down Mako before anything really happens here in EDG. They're going to be forced off this turret. Yeah, Alistair was Fates called into the middle of the fight, died first. That's the awkward thing, but the fight continues. Yeah, you actually, that's his Mimic in the back there, but does end up falling down. Deft is going to fall. Koro, the only man standing now on World Elite, looking to stop this perfect run from EDG. The frontline tank, the only one being alive, is not an ideal situation for EDG. Minimal wave clear, no Road of Ages to speak of. This should be an inhibitor turret and an inhibitor coming through for World Elite. Yeah, they are going to be able to take this one down. World Elite still very, very strong. Jie went very low in that fight, but just so slippery on this Ahri, and he's shown so much power on this champion thus far. I mean, he had a difficult time in the laning phase, and Yu was very, very strong moving into this one. But since then, he's died twice and picked up 1 kill in that time. And Mystic has been able to, even against double AP, go for the mainline maximum damage Urgot build. He's gone for the 40% CDR build. And the reason why this is so important is that to get the last Acid Hunter, you need, I forget the exact number, I believe at least 33% cooldown reduction. So the Frozen Heart being completed, pushing you over 30, then Runes and Masteries means that he's able to get the last Acid Hunter out, and Acid Hunters are so much of his damage. It's also at this stage, now with the Black Cleaver, he is doing so much damage to Deft that if he ever hits that corrosive charge, Deft without any lifesteal basically has to leave the fight. Yeah, well, this is the thing. And also, if Mystic and Deft are directly trading with one another, that Frozen Heart is going to stop Deft from doing anything to Mystic. Just checking the cooldown reduction. I believe he's at 36% cooldown reduction. So he's actually running scaling cooldown reduction blues. If you run 9 of those, it gives you 15%. So maybe running 6 to get the last 10% towards the 40% CDR, but definitely getting the last Acid Hunter at this point. His damage is massive. Deft can potentially do a lot of damage. He's working towards the last Whisper. It's just with this anti-carry and Urgot, maybe this is the situation EDG will get into where they really need to start banning the Urgot because it just really cramps Def's style.
Yeah, well, they banned it in the last game, and you can understand exactly why. It's being demonstrated that banning the Urgot was possibly what won EDG the first matchup.
And kind of the irony is amusing is that any longtime fans of Def from his Samsung Blue days will remember his placeholder pick before he would lock in a champion was Urgot, back before Urgot was meta. And now Urgot's looking like a surprisingly strong pick against Def.
Yeah. You actually going to do some scouting here with his own face using that distortion. Spirit going to be found out by that Sentinel there as well. World Elite looking to consolidate vision around this Baron, waiting for these super creeps to head into the base of EDG. The setup is there, World Elite. They're looking to try and push out this wave, and if they don't have enough siege, they can just go back to the Baron.
Absolutely, and even though they have the most range, Ari has a ranged auto attack, Thresh has a ranged auto attack, 3 ranged auto attackers and or 2 ranged auto attackers and an Urgot at 425 range is still enough to start pushing things down. 7-2 in turrets, 7,000 gold. It isn't unassailable, but what does an EDG one team fight look like? That's the question to me. Even with Last Whisper being completed, they need to be fighting on multiple fronts to ensure that no AoE damage, specifically no corrosive charge, comes down onto Deft.
Yeah, and it's going to be all about being able to ignore Aluka, and at this stage, I don't think they can ignore Aluka because he's making himself so omnipresent around these team fights, exactly where he needs to be. And Spirit is being just kicking people around and being a nuisance. And when you've got GA there as well, who can be anywhere in a team fight, does look very, very difficult for EDG. But if any team can do it, if any team can come back from this one, you have to think it is the #1 team in the LPL, and it is EDG.
And there's no significant neutral advantages, only 2-1 in Dragons, no Baron's been picked up. That's the last factor that I think the World Elite need to be able to finally finish this game. They've already broken the base, which is a very important thing to do when you have these short-range auto attackers like Urgot. They're just baiting around Baron. They've got Tremor Sense, of course. That means World Elite want to stop moving wherever possible to try and deny any Baron vision. Maokai's in the base with only Righteous going Spirit Vision. Isn't going to be clearing these waves fast. Mako says, go away.
Yeah, just pushes him into the pit, but Aluka looks for the unstoppable onslaught there as well. Actually gets knocked up out of it by Clearlove after he comes down. That was beautiful timing for that Unburrow. And that is going to be the ultimate down there from Aluka.
And this is even more awkward. With Thornmail, Deft actually took more damage from auto-attacking Sion than Sion took in reverse. And he's in this awkward spot where what's his next item? You might jump and say Bloodthirster needs it really bad, but without a QSS, he can't even walk anywhere near Urgot.
Yeah, well, that's a very good point as well, and something that I hadn't actually thought of. He's going to have that Vampiric Scepter potentially denied even more as Koro's going to get hit by, oh my goodness, so much there as Clearlove is going to come through with a massive knock-up. World Elite are going to get engaged on here, but we'll see whether that's exactly what they want. Oh, that pulverized into the headbutt over the wall. Mystic, though, going to take down you, and now going to try and fight off against Deft here. The Ren not quite enough to secure that kill as World Elite actually flashing over here. There's the unstoppable onslaught again, but doesn't find the knock-up. Deft taking so much damage as Mako going to flash out of this one after Deft as well. He's able to get back to the fountain, but have World Elite done it? Have they managed to get through? Because they're taking down Nexus turrets.
They're following their super minions, pushing in aggressively. Koro's up. There's still 4 members of EDG. They're buying time, but there's the re-engage.
Oh, there's actually the headbutt pulverize as well as Mystics are going to get taken down incredibly low. Deft still there on the backside. Orbit Deception not going to find him here as well as he's trying to dance through. Jie going to fall down. Aluka now, not a whole lot of damage, and finding himself alone is definitely not what he wants, as Yujie and Spirit are able to escape. But EDG, they successfully defend, but is it enough as the inhibitor has just respawned, and now with 2 dead, EDG might be able to pick up a Baron, and this could have all turned around.
Yeah, we look at the death time. It's still over 20 seconds coming through, so over 10 seconds coming through from Mystic. Still risky to take a Baron. Deft does a lot of Baron damage, but they have not scared away the Legion. The teleport's coming in from Sion.
Yeah, Spirit looking to try and get in here, and Aluka there as well. Deft not going to be able to lifesteal off this Baron as well, as there's the Dark Passage to come through from Yujie.
All on Callista.
Yeah, Deft does manage to rend that one down. Aluka going to get bounced up here as well. Mako, no fear at all, right in there. There's the Fate's Call. Does manage to, doesn't get the knock up there as Aluka able to actually pick that one up, but he's going to be dead. And EDG pick up a Baron, an extra kill. We'll see whether they can get anything up here. A nice death sentence, but Koro going to twistedly advance his way out of it.
It was such fortunate timing, Atlas, for that inhibitor to respawn. That's the only reason they could go for this Baron, knowing that actually Koro could realistically teleport in without their base being wrecked. Remember, they only have a single Nexus turret left. The item time is getting closer and closer for Deft. He was forced to buy the home guard boots. That's 475 gold. At this point, he'd love to have back. Has the QSS, so now doesn't have to respect Mystic as much. He's still lifesteal away from having the ideal build. But you feel, and I don't know about you, Atlas, but I really feel like if Deft can get this 6 damage item without the base being wrecked, without this game ending, EDG could pull the miracle comeback, because the gold lead, it's still only small. It's still only 4,000 gold.
Yeah, and there is so much standing gold on this map still available for EDG. There's 2 turrets to 8 now at this stage, and if EDG, they get a team fight and then take down a whole bunch of turrets because they have to get through them to get to the base, then as you can see right now, this Baron doing a whole lot of work. They'll be able to easily catch back up, and now only 3,000 gold, and that's only going to shrink further.
And in general, World Elite are very poorly positioned across the map. There were 2 members, Urgot and Lee Sin, for some reason down the bottom lane. I mean, maybe trying to set up a slow minion-wave, but that should only be a one-man job. They just get out-rotated significant. This should be the Dragon as well. It's taken, and there's the engage.
Yes, the headbutt Pulverize actually landing out of Mako here as well. Def going to kind of come around, and there's the unbreakable will from Mako. He's looking to try and get something happening here as you over on the backside, and Def just fate calls the cow out of it. EDG able to fight. Oh, actually, there's the charm onto Koro as well. He's getting so much focus fire, but there's the headbutt Pulverize again from Mako. So much work being done here in the front line, but Deft, he gets knocked up here as well. He's going to instantly QSS, but he's going to get taken out by Mystic, and you so incredibly low. Koro, valiant effort, but he's going to fall down. World Elite able to continue their team fighting prowess, and oh my goodness, that was a distortion that you probably didn't want to take, but had to. And oh, Flay not going to find him either, as Clearlove going to play defense for his mid laner.
They need to stop them from finishing this game. EDG are trying to buy time as much as possible. Wadley should just be ending it.
Yeah, Mystic's actually there at the inhibitor. He got the memo there, as Clearlove able to tank up a whole lot of damage. Actually, Spirit might die here as well. Oh my goodness, you able to escape from Aluka.
This is
as
crazy.
The Slayer comes out. GA now wants to try and finish him off. Can't see whether he actually did. Aluka going to finish the kill. Inhibitor falls down though, as Mystic, he remembers what wins games of League of Legends, which is taking down towers, and that's the ultimate, the Void Rush to come out from Clearlove just to get him back to base.
It is insane. They got a decent kill trade in a 2v3 situation. World Elite just completely had a brain fart. That's the only way I can put it. They should have just gone and finished the game. Just take down the inhibitor, take down the single Nexus turret, and end the game. But instead, they did nothing. And EDG, they still have life in this game when it should have been over.
It should have been. They could have actually won the game right there, of course, as you said. And there was, you can see right now, Koro clearing out this massive minion wave here on the bottom side, already halfway through that one, and it would have been enough to be able to tank that one out. There's only one Nexus turret available, and Papa Smithy, you don't see mistakes like that normally here in the LPL.
Just a massive mistake when they could have just ended the game. Obviously not judging the fact that, hell, even if there were 2 Nexus turrets they could have done it, but there was only a single Nexus turret up. They would have DPS'd it down with ease. Apparently Mystic knew what was happening, but maybe there was a language barrier issue there is all I can assume. But the result is the EDG, they're still in this game. The Bilge Ward is completed on Deft. If he finishes that Blade of the Ruined King, teamfight's suddenly get that much more difficult for World Elite.
Yeah, and already now with that little bit of extra lifesteal,
he's at least negating the Thornmail damage.
Yeah, precisely. So he's able to freely auto-attack onto Aluka, which is a big deal. Deft now able to clear out this ward. This is a very, very low middle inhibitor turret, as Mako actually going to knock Mystic away from that one. Fate's Call going to come through as well. Unbreakable Will has been popped here as well, but EDG going down so incredibly low. He's going to lose his passive, actually his life here as well, as Koro trying to be a nuisance. Aluka still at full health. Mystic as well, swapping members in and out of this fight. Deft still alive for now, but GA, he does find it onto Mako, but doesn't quite lock down the kill. Deft fighting with Aluka, who's tanking up the turret, which is somehow still alive. GA going to take down Koro. Clearlove now in a lot of trouble, and this looks like World Elite finally able to finish this game as Spirit takes down the turret, and World Elite just tank the Nexus turrets. We're finished.
Oh, this time EDG just tap out. That was a long, drawn-out fight. Deft got about 40 auto attacks into the sun. Still couldn't take him down, even though he was tanking that inhibitor turret. GG well played to World Elite. They keep their slim final hopes alive with another point, now 4 points behind Masters 3. With a bit of momentum, taking a point away from EDG. They're only the 4th unique team to be able to pick up a win against EDG this season. EDG, they lose their 23-game winning streak without pawn in the game. You did just fine, though, you have to remember. And EDG, they're going to be a bit bemused, and maybe that will be the end of the Kalista and perhaps the enemy Urgots for EDG.
Well, it might at least be the end of, going for the pickaxe first on Kalista, which seemed to really trouble Def there. You saw Spirit actually, patting him on the head there at the end. Some Korean camaraderie there, of course. Known each other for
teammates, of course.
Yeah, they've known each other for a very long time, and it's always great to see. But World Elite, 1 point closer to those playoffs. But ladies and gentlemen, that does it for us this evening. There is still plenty more LPL coming this weekend. But on behalf of myself, Pastry Time, Papa Smithy right here, and our whole production team, thank you so much for watching, and we'll